This is a WKYT podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Conversations with Victor and Andrea. Andrea, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right. You're all bundled up in a blanket over there. You look like you might fall asleep.
I'm cozy.
Okay,
this is like
nice.
my home away from home.
I know. We are in the WKYT podcast studio, which they did, I guess, build for this purpose, which is kind of nice.
It is very nice. It's our little podcast room.
I know.
Our podcast pod.
We used to have to hang out in the conference room, and occasionally people would come in and be like, "Hey, we've got to do actual business." And it's like,
Everybody, it's the only time we'll ever get Barb because she would occasionally get
yeah,
coffee.
She's getting coffee, so she can show up in the background. We will still get her at some point. So this week we're doing something a little different. It's a little self-indulgent for me, but it was at the request of the boss, so I don't mind at all.
Hey, whatever Jeff Anderson wants, Jeff Anderson gets on this podcast.
That's right. So Avengers Endgame is the biggest movie in the world. Mm-hmm. And Jeff is in the boat that a lot of people are, same as Andrea.
Yes. I'm the captain of this ship.
Has never seen a Marvel movie. But people want to watch this movie because like everybody else is watching it. I want to be involved. So...
Question number one.
Sure, here we go.
Do you think a person can enjoy this movie without prior knowledge?
After this podcast, they will be able to.
Ooh, so that's exactly what this is. Our thesis statement. For those who have not done any preparation, we are preparing you to watch Endgame.
There you go.
In maybe like less than an hour instead of watching how many hours worth of movies.
I was going to say, if you don't feel like watching 21 movies,
exactly,
you can listen to this for, 45 minutes. And theoretically, you'll be able to go in, you'll know the stakes, you'll know what's going on.
Once again, Victor is so prepared for this podcast.
I literally just printed out the Wikipedia entry for the Marvel movies.
I know, but it's the tiniest print I've ever seen, and there's pages and pages.
I don't even need to, literally, I just need the names of the movies to kind of remember what's going on. Most of them I've seen multiple times. Some of them I've only seen once or twice in the theater, but I have seen them all. Mm-hmm. So we're good to go there. I don't know. I think one thing that's going to be interesting about this is, even if people haven't seen the Marvel movies, I feel like they know who these characters are. Right. A lot of them, just because you've seen Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. I'm sure.
I get the concept, like the general idea of their character, at least. So I'm sure everyone else does too. I mean, Thor was a Greek god. Like people know a little bit, right?
Not Greek, Nordic.
Oh,
Thor.
Same thing.
Okay, there we go. So,
nerd.
So a little bit of background on how the Marvel movies got made. Back in the olden days, Marvel was just a comic book company. Mm-hmm. They started going under, so they...
Stan Lee, right?
Yeah, Stan Lee.
If anybody would just humor me here, go back and watch my story from yesterday about the opening of La Rosa's Pizza, because Buddy La Rosa, who is about to turn 98 years old, is a miniature Stan Lee.
Yeah?
Yes. And it was funny. I didn't even say it first. I was thinking it the entire time I was interviewing him. And then Darnell goes, "That guy looks like Stan Lee." And I was like, I wanted to say that.
I need to go
so
check that out
badly.
now. Okay, I will look at that.
Adorable. It's a really good story, actually.
Oh, okay. All right.
From me.
Yeah, no, you like that. Really. It's good. I promise. So Marvel Comics, they're having some financial issues in the 90s, and their most popular characters were the X-Men. Mm-hmm. So they sold the rights to the X-Men to Fox so they could go make popular movies. And then they sold Spider-Man to Sony. He was also one of their most popular people. They sold Hulk to Universal. Basically, they're just like, we need money, so let's start selling
because they were failing.
Yes.
Right.
Comic books weren't making as much money as they used to. So they, at some point, they decided, well, we might make our own movies because everybody else is, but we don't have the rights to our biggest characters. Mm-hmm. We don't have, DC had been out there making Batman and Superman movies for years, to varying degrees of success. For some reason, I still enjoy Batman Forever, even though it is not
Which
a great
one
movie.
Is that?
That's the one with Val Kilmer.
It's good.
With the great soundtrack, Kiss from a Rose by Seal.
It is good. And is that the one with Nicole Kidman?
Nicole Kidman, yeah.
Yeah. See?
Let's not say it's good. Let's say it was fun. Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones.
I thought it was good.
Well, you know what? You're right. If you enjoyed it, then it's a good movie.
That's right.
I'll stop
I will say,
raining on your parade.
Speaking of podcasts, since you're listening to one now, you'd probably enjoy, there's a Business Wars episode of DC versus Marvel that will give you great background information. Because I actually know a little bit about this. But yeah, it's called Business Wars. It's really good. DC versus Marvel. They're all interesting. Like there's one Nike versus Adidas. Just It's cool to listen to.
All right, I'm excited. I will check that out. Business Wars, especially DC versus Marvel, interests me. So, and then there's all kinds of backstory between those two, like the character of Captain Marvel. They both had characters named Captain Marvel, which is why when Shazam came out, they couldn't actually call him Captain Marvel. And now the movie's called Shazam. That's a whole other thing. So, Marvel starts deciding they're going to make their own movies, but they don't have their most popular ones. Although for comic book nerds, the Avengers were like we all knew who they were. But for the world at large, whenever Marvel said, "Well, we're going to start with an Iron Man movie," people kind of were like, "What?"
But Iron Man is a part of the Avengers.
Yeah, he's always one of the most popular characters for me growing up. But like I said, for the people at large, there'd also been a Hulk movie a long time ago with Ang Lee. And so the way movie rights work, essentially, Fantastic Four, they also sold the rights for the Fantastic Four. That's why those movies were made. So the way movie rights work, essentially, you have X amount of, like if you don't make another one of these movies in a certain amount of years, the rights revert back to Marvel, which is why they just keep churning these movies out, because they have to, or they lose the rights.
Or they lose them. Okay.
Yeah. So Marvel decides they're going to make their own movies, and they start with Iron Man. That was in 2008, played by Robert Downey Jr. And you got to remember, at the time, Robert Downey Jr. was not a big name. He was a guy who had a lot of legal issues.
He had fallen from grace.
Yeah, he literally woke up in a stranger's house because he had gotten, like, allegedly drunk or something. But he woke up in a stranger's house, and they're like, "Oh, why is Robert Downey Jr. in our home?" He had problems.
I kind of have a crush on him.
Well, he seems like an awesome guy.
He really does.
And he's really, made the most of this situation. So they hire Robert Downey Jr.
Post meltdown.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. That's what I meant. So they hire him, and people are kind of like, "Well, okay, we'll see how it goes." And it's directed by Jon Favreau, who did Swingers. Big fan of Swingers. So they make Iron Man, which I still consider to be a basically perfect movie.
What?
It is just it's flawless. It's just such a good movie.
I think I'd like it.
I think you would too. It's about this billionaire industrialist who gets captured. He gets kidnapped by this terrorist organization while he's out in the desert. He's selling some weapons that he had made, and they kidnap him. They want him to make a weapon for them, this giant missile. And what he secretly does is create a suit of armor so that he can escape. And then he, once he finally gets home.
Nice. So he blows it up, but he's able to get out.
Yeah, he's able to get up. This armor that it's kind of a rudimentary version of what it ends up being. But he's eventually able to get home. But in the process, he's damaged. Like a piece of shrapnel goes in next to his heart. So he has to put this little thing next to his heart to keep the metal from moving, which is why he becomes Iron Man. So anyway, once he gets back home, he realizes that these his weapons are being sold to bad people, and he wants to stop it. So he creates this armor using his knowledge, which you'll see a lot of it. A lot of the tech stuff is they bounce back and forth between it being like tech and magic almost, because it's so advanced. It's like he can do basically anything. But one of his business partners is the one who's actually been selling the money, and that guy creates a big suit. And so at the end, there's this big battle, but Tony Stark wins. Also, the introduction of Pepper Potts, Tony Stark's right-hand woman, played by Gwyneth Paltrow. And
Pepper Potts.
That's her name. There's a great scene where there's like some tension between them, some sexual tension.
Of course.
But at one point he takes home this reporter.
Oh.
And she, Pepper's in the morning like cleaning stuff out, and she walks in and she's like, "Okay, you can leave now." And the reporter's like, "Oh, do you take care of all of Tony Stark's stuff?" And she's like, "Yes, I do many things for Mr. Stark, including taking out the trash."
Ooh, burn.
Yeah. So she's kind of his right-hand woman, but that's how Tony Stark.
I like how you appreciated that shade enough to tell that one specific part.
I knew you'd appreciate it. The next movie after that is The Incredible Hulk, starring Edward Norton, but eventually he gets replaced with Mark Ruffalo. There are stories about Edward Norton possibly being difficult to work with.
He's brilliant.
Yes, he is brilliant. Great actor. I enjoy his work. But let's see. Incredible Hulk.
You are frantic right now. I love it.
Well, there's just
so much to talk about.
There's a lot to get through.
Okay.
But The Incredible Hulk, pretty quickly, he just gets exposed to gamma radiation, turns into a giant monster. He's a scientist who's trying to cure himself. But it's this dichotomy because he's brilliant when he's him. It's almost Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, basically. Right. And then he turns into this giant green rage monster. So I'm going in order of the film's release. Some of these movies kind of take place, they overlap as far as when they actually are supposed to take place chronologically. Next, Iron Man 2 introduces Tony Stark's friend, James Rhodes, who's in the first one, but only a little bit. He becomes War Machine.
War Machine, all right.
Iron Man also builds him a suit, basically, and they take down this.
So his Robin.
Kind of, yeah, except he's got this sweet giant suit.
But better.
Yeah. It's also the introduction of Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow. Mm-hmm. And so she's in that one.
What's her power?
She is basically just a spy. She doesn't have actual superpowers. She's just really, really skilled.
She's awesome.
Yeah, okay. She's just awesome. Let's see. So the main bad guy in that one was Mickey Rourke.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he plays this guy who basically says that Tony Stark's dad, who was responsible for creating Captain America, because Tony Stark's dad was also a genius, and that he stole technology from Mickey Rourke's dad's father, or Mickey Rourke's dad's character. Anyway, he was upset.
Gotcha.
So that he fights him, but then they take him down. That one's fine. The next movie, Thor, Chris Hemsworth. I see you making a face right now.
I'm sure I could sit through an hour or two of Chris Hemsworth.
Thor, also very watchable. It's a very simple movie. He's the crown prince of Asgard. He's banished to Earth, stripped of his powers because
a Nordic god.
Yes, he reignites a dormant war, as Wikipedia puts it, and he's got his evil brother Loki, who's trying to take the throne for himself. Loki sends this giant robot that's kind of a Asgardian weapon.
And that's
down to
Tom
Earth.
Hiddleston?
Tom Hiddleston is Loki. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
So at that point, Thor defeats the robot and gets his power back, and
But Loki's still hanging around.
Yeah, he's still around in the background. But so Thor has a hammer, Mjolnir. It's like MJOR. Anyway, it's weird how it's spelled. But you have to be worthy to lift it.
So not just anyone.
Exactly. There's a big deal about that. Like, if you're only because he's not worthy, like because he loses his powers for a while.
Can other people? Who are some examples of someone who could lift it? Is he the only one that we know of?
He is the only one that we know of. And so that's
handy in a fight, because so many times you drop your sword and the other guy kills you with your own sword.
His hammer, he can throw it and he can call it back to him and it'll come back and he messes stuff up. He flies with it. It's pretty sweet. So that's Thor. Let's see. His dad is played by Anthony Hopkins. So that's pretty nice. He's in there. Renee Russo's his mom. It's got a great cast. It's actually directed by Kenneth Branagh because he's big into Shakespearean stuff. So it has the first Thor has kind of a Shakespearean feel to it, which is interesting.
That's classic.
Yeah. After that, Captain America, the First Avenger, directed by Joe Johnson. Is that his name? The same guy who directed The Rocketeer. Did you ever see The Rocketeer?
I did not.
Anyway, he shoots around in a rocket, fights Nazis, which has a similar feel to Captain America, the First Avenger. He goes around, he fights Nazis. He is like a 98-pound weakling. Steve Rogers is this little bitty scrawny guy who wants to fight the Nazis, but he's too weak.
Are we still on Captain America?
Yes, this is Captain America, the First Avenger. This takes place in 1942.
Okay, gotcha.
So Steve Rogers, little weakling guy, but him and his best friend, Bucky Barnes, played by Sebastian Stan, they both enlist. Bucky's able to, get in no problem, but Steve is just a little weak guy, so he gets told no. But he does get accepted into this secret program because there's this great scene where Tommy Lee Jones plays his drill sergeant, and he throws a grenade out, and everybody else jumps from it, but little Steve Rogers jumps on it to try to save everybody. But it's a dummy grenade. But that's just the kind of guy Steve Rogers is.
Now, question. He crossed paths with Wonder Woman, right? No. Or am I wrong about that?
Wonder Woman is DC.
Ooh.
There you go. But her stuff also takes place in the First World War. Wonder Woman takes place in the First World War. Captain America takes place in World War II.
Chris Pine, right?
Pine. Chris Evans is Captain America, the First Avenger. There are a lot of Chris's. There's talks of which is the best Chris. You got Chris Hemsworth, Chris Pine,
Chris Pratt.
And strangely enough, in the first Star Trek, Chris Hemsworth plays Chris Pine's dad in a flashback.
That's funny.
Yeah, so there's a lot of Chris going on. You also have Chris Pratt. He'll show up later.
Fave.
Yes. So, Captain America, the First Avenger. Captain America gets accepted into this super soldier program led by Tony Stark's father. And then there's other scientists. And their thing is, why would you give power to someone who's already powerful? They want to give it to somebody who's good. Mm-hmm. And so they turn him into this super soldier, and he becomes, 6'4", giant, awesome.
That's so sweet.
Yeah,
He's like little Mighty Mouse becomes.
Exactly. And so he becomes Captain America. And at first he's this kind of figurehead, like a symbol, but he doesn't actually go out and fight. But then he gets called into action, and he fights. He takes down the Red Skull.
I like this.
But during the process, his friend Bucky Barnes falls off a train and dies and gets and then Captain America also at the end of the movie gets stuck he falls in the Arctic and gets frozen, and that's the end of the movie.
Oh.
Yeah, but
I'm assuming he makes a comeback.
he does. He gets they cut him out of the ice, and the super soldier serum, so he hasn't aged. Mm-hmm. This is like 2004 or something.
Think Austin Powers.
Basically, yes. So he hasn't aged, so they cut him out. And he's now a man out of time because he's always like, yes, ma'am, no, sir.
What is going on?
Says his prayers at the dinner table, and the world has moved on.
That's not necessarily out of time.
No,
Victor.
I know, but I'm saying, well, if you look at most
He's
movies and
old-fashioned,
stuff,
you're
yeah, like it's weird that they consider that like an old-fashioned value when a lot of people. So that's Captain America. He's now a man out of time, but he is enlisted again to help his country, and he's happy to do it. Which leads us to the Avengers. Whenever
the first one,
the first Avengers, and that brings together Thor, Captain America, Iron Man, the Hulk, Scarlet Witch, and Hawkeye, who was also in Thor a little bit. He's Jeremy Renner. He's got a bow. They even make fun of the fact that like his superpower is that he has a bow and arrow.
He's Katniss.
Yeah, basically, yes. He is Katniss Everdeen. So that is his
in
superpower.
male form. Okay.
So Nick Fury, director of S.H.I.E.L.D., who made a surprise appearance at the end of Iron Man, he shows up and he says, "I want to talk to you about the Avengers Initiative." That sets the whole thing up. So all these movies lead up to the Avengers. When they all join together, he's the head of S.H.I.E.L.D., the secret government organization that's watching over everything, and he's the one who brings all these heroes together.
Okay.
Again, played by Samuel L. Jackson. So he gathers all these heroes together to fight Thor's brother Loki, who has opened up this dimensional wormhole to bring in all these aliens to try to take over the Earth.
So is Loki just mad because he's like the
younger brother?
Yes.
Yeah, that's it. I mean,
gotcha.
He's got younger brother complex. And so they all team up to fight off these aliens, although Loki gets the aliens from a guy called Thanos.
I've heard.
The Mad Titan.
I've heard of that, yeah.
So they beat back these aliens. Tony almost dies in the process. If you're only going to watch a few of these movies, Avengers is one of them. You probably should. It's just really good. They just tie it all together. But they take Loki into custody, and in the process, they all form the Avengers. The Hulk goes a little crazy, destroys half of New York, but they manage to get him under control. So that leads us to Iron Man 3. Tony Stark is kind of regretful and has sort of PTSD after everything that happened in New York. It's very self-contained. It is directed by Shane Black, who I liked. He did Lethal Weapon, a bunch of other movies. But he decides he wants to give up his armor, but then he ends up having to come back to fight this guy who's not that much carry-ons from Iron Man 3, although there is a little kid that he helps because he loses his armor, and there's a kid who helps him.
That pops back up?
At one point. He pops back up in Endgame.
Okay.
That's all I'll say about that. Let's see. I'm trying to figure out if there's anything else that interesting. Iron Man 3, I enjoy it, but for some people it's kind of a low point. So is Thor: The Dark World. A lot of people don't like that. All the Marvel movies are good, but if you look at lists of the best, best to worst, Thor's always near the bottom.
It's always hard.
Yeah. So, and the other thing is Thor's girlfriend is played by Natalie Portman, Jane Foster. She's an astrophysicist, and she winds up.
She's just human.
Yes.
Okay.
She winds up infected with this stuff called the Aether, which ends up being one of what's known as the Infinity Stones. So that's all these things. So like in Captain America, there's a thing called the Tesseract that can warp reality, and that's actually an Infinity Stone. Loki has this thing that can do mind control. That's actually an Infinity Stone. And so all of these movies are collecting all of these stones. And so in Thor: The Dark World, we meet the Aether, which lets you, I think it's maybe warps reality. Anyway, so he's fighting an evil dark elf. And the important thing that happens in Thor: The Dark World is his mom dies.
Oh.
Yeah, it's sad. But you also find out that Loki is actually his adopted brother, and he's actually a frost giant who is...
Frost giant?
Yeah, who is also like an evil wizard. But...
Does he get the stone?
No. No,
Does she die?
His mom...
His wife? Or his girlfriend?
Yes. No, sorry. She dies, but then she comes back. They get it. It's fine. You can watch it if you want to.
Okay.
Then we get to Captain America: The Winter Soldier, which I believe is the best of the Marvel movies.
Really?
Maybe still. Steve Rogers, he's working with S.H.I.E.L.D. now. And then him and Black Widow. It's kind of a spy movie. It's got Robert Redford in it, which you find out that Hydra, the organization that was responsible for a lot of the stuff in the first Captain America movie, is still alive. Like they kind of went underground and have started to infiltrate S.H.I.E.L.D. And so Robert Redford, who is the Secretary of Defense, I guess I should say these are going to be a lot of spoilers for all of these. Basically, I'm going to spoil everything except Endgame.
Well, yeah, I thought that was the whole point.
Yeah, that's the whole
it's
point.
Okay.
All right. But it turns out Robert Redford is actually evil and is involved in Hydra. And so are a lot of the people that Captain America has been teaming up with. So he has to take them all down. And it turns out there's a lot of the events throughout history, like it shows like Kennedy's assassination and like the sinking of the, I don't know if the Titanic. Maybe the Hindenburg. Anyway,
Kind of
so all
like
these
Forrest
different
Gump,
things.
where it's all of these.
But there's this guy called the Winter Soldier, who has been, he's got this cool silver arm, and like he wears this black mask. And while they're like the Winter Soldier shows up and starts trying to kill Captain America and Black Widow. There's a lot of characters here. So while they're fighting the Winter Soldier, Captain America rips off his mask, and it's Bucky,
his friend.
Who fell off the train and was like picked up by the Russians.
And he's a bad guy now?
And then, they like brainwashed him. He had lost his arm, so they put it like a new arm. And so Captain America looks at him and goes, Bucky. And he's like, who's Bucky? And then he just keeps trying to kill Captain America.
This is so much like Hunger Games. Can we talk about this? PETA. Same thing happens to PETA.
So it turns out that the Winter Soldier is his best friend, Bucky. And so then
he brings him back.
Well, the last half of them, like, it's them fighting because S.H.I.E.L.D. is trying to put these giant gun platforms in the air, or Hydra is, so that they can take out all their enemies, because they've written this program that can identify people who they need to kill. And so it's all about, like, a big brother watching over you and them trying to stop that. So, yeah, he's able to...
Because he can't kill his best friend.
Exactly.
I mean,
and so Bucky's trying to kill him, and he's trying to stop him.
He's like, I have to fight you, but I can't.
And at the end of it, they both fall from this giant platform and land in the water, and Captain America starts like drowning, and Bucky saves him and pulls him up on the shore, but then runs off and just disappears.
He couldn't let it happen.
Yeah, like Bucky just goes off, and because at this point, like he starts getting his memory back, because that's the thing, they have to. It shows that organization, they like have to, after every time he comes back from mission, they have to wipe his mind so he doesn't remember who he is. So he starts to remember who he is.
But he knows enough that he needs to save him, but he's like, I'm still confused. I gotta get out of here. Okay.
Yeah. So he goes into hiding. After that is Guardians of the Galaxy. That's the one with Chris Pratt, Dave Bautista. It is its own like space opera type thing. The big thing with that is there's another Infinity Gem or Infinity Stone introduced. In the comics, they're the gems, but in the movies, they call them the stones. Okay. Anyway, and Thanos has a bigger role in that. Josh Brolin, for the first time, plays him. But they get the stone, they give it to somebody.
And this one's probably funny.
It's funny. Yeah,
Funnier.
It's funny.
I know they all have like comedy.
It is
aspects,
very much like you can watch it without watching any of the other ones on its own. It's a space.
It doesn't seem to fit. The others all.
It doesn't. They insert them into it, and it takes place because they are dealing much more with the cosmic stuff, and that kind of invades
brings them in
into Earth. But it's its own thing, and it's good. Avengers: Age of Ultron is they're all teaming together, and Tony Stark has decided to create an AI. Excuse me. An AI to kind of watch over the world. He wants to create all these robot versions of Iron Man so that they can patrol. It goes evil.
Oh, I'm shocked.
Yeah,
couldn't have seen that coming.
And so it creates this.
If they learn nothing from I Am Legend.
I know. Well, that's the other thing. So it creates this entity called Ultron, who decides the best way to keep peace is to eliminate humanity.
Oh no.
And so.
Tony.
There you go. And so it becomes all of them trying to fight Ultron. There is this great scene where they're all sitting around drinking and having fun, and they're all trying to lift Thor's hammer.
Oh,
because he's like, oh, come on, and they're all like, they're all, Tony's like, all right, I'll give it a shot. He gets on his Iron Man armor and is trying to lift it, and it won't come up. And they look over at Captain America, and he's like, all right, I'll get it. And so he goes to grab it, and it wiggles a little.
Of course,
and you see Thor go,
the only good
yeah,
one.
Thor's like, but then he couldn't lift it all the way, but still Thor's like, he kind of, yeah.
See, I asked you, I was like, is he the only one? I bet Captain America, in the right frame of mind, maybe. In the right situation, he'd probably be able to use it.
And they even turned to Black Widow at one point while they're all doing that. They're like, you want to give it a shot? And she's like, I'm good.
No, thank you.
Yeah, she said something like, I don't need my ego. I don't know. She says something funny.
Bruised any more than it already is.
Not even bruised. She's just
fragile.
Yeah. She's like, I don't have that much testosterone. You're fine. You boys go for it. That's essentially what it is. There is an interesting thing. So Tony has this AI in his system called Jarvis, and he's trying to. They get this thing called the Mind Stone, which is part of one of the stones, and Jarvis fuses with that, creating the Vision, this new hero, who is another AI who wants to help them fight Ultron, and they aren't sure if they're going to, because he pops up and they're like, okay, we've got to kill this guy too, but then he picks up Thor's hammer and hands it to him, and they're like, oh, all right, and so the Vision ends up being really powerful, but a good guy. I guess Age of Ultron also introduces Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver.
You've already said Scarlet Witch.
No, I've said Black Widow. I almost said Scarlet
You
Witch.
accidentally
I know.
said.
That's the thing.
Okay.
Because they both have red on there.
I think he just meant the Black Widow, but okay.
I did,
cool.
yeah. If I said Scarlet Witch, I meant Black Widow. Now I'm talking about Black Widow.
They should have been a little more creative with those two.
So Scarlet Witch and Vision end up becoming a couple.
Oh.
She becomes a couple with this like AI man, played by Paul Bettany.
Oh, she was a robot, and a person fell in love with her in a movie. Remember the one with Joaquin Phoenix? She plays like
that's Scarlett Johansson.
Who are we talking about?
Scarlet. That's why I said Scarlet. Scarlett Johansson plays Black Widow. Scarlet Witch is played by Elizabeth Olsen, Mary-Kate and Ashley's younger sister, older sister. Anyway, there's a lot going on here.
So much. Well, every famous person is in one of these movies.
Yes, they're in all of them. Quicksilver dies saving Hawkeye during this movie.
Okay.
But Scarlet Witch becomes part of the Avengers, and during this movie, it's in Sokovia, and there are thousands of innocent people who die as a result of Ultron trying to lift it. He has a plan to basically lift the city and then bring it back down, creating like a meteor effect to wipe out life on Earth. They stop him. Let's see. After that, Ant-Man with Paul Rudd.
I was wondering if that was going to come up. I was like, is Ant-Man part of this?
It's very self-contained. He's basically a small-time thief who gets involved with this guy, Dr. Hank Pym, who worked with Tony Stark's dad, creating these Pym particles that can help you shrink, but they can also make you big. So
is Tony as smart as his dad? Because his dad sounds like he was like.
Yes, and that's a big
like
part
way
of it.
Too many times just now.
No, yeah, and that's a part of it is that Tony looked up to his dad so much and is trying to be like him.
Okay.
That's part of Iron Man 2 is that he's
always trying to live up to that.
Yeah. So Ant-Man, basically somebody else is trying to use. There are a lot of similarities between Ant-Man and Iron Man, where some other businessman is trying to use that technology for evil. Mm-hmm. Ant-Man is able to stop them.
Love me some Paul Rudd.
Yes. Although Evangeline Lilly's also introduced in that.
Love her
She
too.
eventually becomes the Wasp. So after Ant-Man is Captain America: Civil War. Probably my second favorite of them.
You are really about Captain America then, because.
Well, they're just they do just the directors, the Russo brothers have done just such a good job, and they're also the people who directed them are the ones who did Infinity War and Endgame, so they tie those movies tie into them a lot. So in Civil War, the world is basically wanting to start regulate superheroes because of what happened in Sokovia. They want all the superheroes to register so that they can keep track of them, and so that should you do something bad, you can be punished. Mm-hmm. And so that's basically they want everybody to sign up on a registry, which Tony Stark agrees with. He's like, yes, we do need to be regulated because of all these people who died. He
was that
in Sokovia when they were fighting Ultron. All these people died. At the start of Civil War, this lady comes up to him and hands him a picture of her son. And he's like, he was there doing humanitarian work, and he died because of you all.
Man. Did the Hulk kill a bunch of innocent people? You said he went kind of crazy.
Well, but that was while they were fighting all those aliens.
Okay.
So that was also part of it. Like the Hulk.
He's probably an issue.
Well, after Age of Ultron, the Hulk gets on like a spaceship basically and goes off into space because he's so.
He can't control himself.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's out of the picture for a lot of these, which makes sense because if you had the Hulk in Civil War, he would have been too powerful really for them to fight. Mm-hmm. So on one side you have Iron Man, who believes that they should all be regulated and that this is, because he basically is responsible for Ultron and a lot of it, and so he feels a burden. On the other side you have Captain America, who says, no, we need to be free. We are doing what's best for everyone. And
ooh, those are like my two favorites.
Exactly. So it's the two of them, and the whole thing.
The team captains.
Well, so the whole thing while this is going on, there is an explosion at the UN that kills the king of Wakanda. His son,
Black Panther.
Black Panther. Yes. So his son decides that he's going to find the person who blew it up to kill him, and then pictures go out, and it's the Winter Soldier.
Oh.
That is supposedly still out terrorizing people. And Steve Rogers is like, Bucky wouldn't do that. I know him. Turns out there's this soldier whose family died in Sokovia, who his whole plan for that movie is to get the Avengers to fight each other. Oh. And so he blows those people up, but he does it like dressed like the Winter Soldier because he knows that Captain America will protect the Winter Soldier while Tony Stark will try to go after him. And so that movie is them trying to...
Tony and Captain America, they were friends at one point.
Oh, they were, best friends. So and there are all these flashbacks where you see the Winter Soldier killing these people. You're trying to figure out what's going on. And so you also find out that there are more super soldiers like the Winter Soldier. They've created a whole bunch of them. And it seems like this soldier whose family died in Sokovia is trying to go get them so that he can start kind of using them to take over the world. Mm-hmm. So there's this giant battle at an airport involving Captain America's team and Iron Man's team. He goes and gets Ant-Man. This is when Iron Man goes and gets Spider-Man out of New York to help him. This is how he's introduced, the Tom Holland version.
Okay. So who's on what team?
Okay, let me see. Well, it's written down here, I think, somewhere. Two opposing teams. Let's see. I'm trying to figure out exactly. I'll just do it off the top of my head. So Iron Man, I think, has Black Panther, not Scarlet Witch, Black Widow. Yeah, keep getting those two confused now. The Vision, War Machine, and
he has all the things I haven't heard of.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then Captain America has Ant-Man, Hawkeye, his friend the Falcon, who you meet him in Winter Soldier. He's a army guy who
sharpshooter.
No, he like flies around, but he's also he makes friends with Steve because he's like, I know what it's like to be over, and so anyway they become kind of friends, even though they're both obviously in the army at different times. I'm trying to think. So there's this interesting scene where Ant-Man goes giant at one point because it turns out that instead of shrinking, he can also go huge, and so Civil War's great, but so Captain America gets free and is able to go to where he and he also has the Winter Soldier. That's the thing. So he and Bucky team back up, and so Bucky's fighting.
And Bucky
with him.
says that wasn't me.
Yeah, Bucky's like, that wasn't me, and they find out it wasn't him, and that's the thing. Even so, they go to where this other soldier, the soldier from Sokovia, has these people, and so Iron Man also learns the truth that wasn't Bucky, and so then he realizes, oh, I need to go
help,
and so he is following behind Captain America, and so basically they show up kind of at the same time, and Iron Man even shows up. He's like, I'm here to help. I realize Bucky's that wasn't he didn't blow up the UN, and so they go in and they find all these soldiers, but they're all dead, and that guy is in there and he's behind this like brick wall, and he's like, they're like, we thought you wanted to take over the world. He's like, no, I just wanted you all to fight each other, and so and then he plays this tape, and it's a security camera from when Tony Stark's parents died, and it was Bucky who killed them when he was the Winter Soldier.
Ooh.
And so there's this scene where
they don't know what to do.
Well, no, Tony Stark's like armor comes down because he's going to kill him, and Captain America's like, he didn't know what he was doing. He's my friend.
Oh gosh.
And Tony Stark's like, I thought I was your friend too. And he's like, he killed my mom. And like, so then it just becomes this all out battle between Iron Man and Captain America and the Winter Soldier.
Oh no.
Yeah. And it's...
Does no one win?
Well, and that's even the thing, like the guy, because he says he's trying to destroy the Avengers, and he says, an empire attacked from outside could be rebuilt, but one that crumbles from within is gone forever.
That's a good line.
And it's like, that's the thing I love about that villain in that movie, because he doesn't have this giant world domination plan. Like he just wants them to
playing the game well, though.
Yeah. And so that's the thing, like, yeah, you recognize that video and it's like, oh, it's Bucky killing Tony's parents. So, Captain and Bucky end up beating Tony, but they don't kill him or anything, but they just basically power him down. Like they destroy his armor, and they take off.
Oh, that's sad.
And they're in the wind.
He can rebuild.
Well, actually, that's the thing. Captain America takes Bucky to Wakanda, where the Black Panther is, because that's the other thing. The Black Panther stops that guy from killing himself because he's like, I've got too much bloodshed. He's like, I was going to kill an innocent man because of you. And so then he stops him from killing himself. And so then he takes Bucky to Wakanda, where he can be rehabilitated.
So this movie takes place before Black Panther.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So then we meet So then they're all out in the wind, and Captain America's a fugitive at that point. That takes us to Doctor Strange, where we meet Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange, Dr. Stephen Strange. He's the Sorcerer Supreme. There's a world-ending threat. He manages to stop it. But
so he's a good guy.
He's a good guy. We find out he has the Time Stone, which he can stop time. And there's this interesting scene at the end where he's facing this giant, almost like godlike creature that he can't kill, but he sticks them both in a time loop. So the creature just kills him, and then time restarts, and the thing's like, wait, what's going on? And he just keeps killing Doctor Strange. And Doctor Strange is like, I'll make you a deal. If you leave, I'll let us out of this time loop, and you can go back to whatever it is. Otherwise, we're both just going to be here forever.
Sacrificing himself.
Yeah, and so the thing's like, all right, fine, you win.
I can't take this anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, okay. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, we find out that Chris Pratt, Peter Quill, is actually half celestial, which is like a almost godlike creature. His dad, played by Kurt Russell, but turns out he's evil, and they have to take him down.
Oh.
Let's see. Spider-Man Homecoming, the first full Spider-Man movie. It's really good. Tom Holland. Michael Keaton plays the Vulture, one of the bad guys in it. And Iron Man's in that one a lot. And it's just a good movie. Thor Ragnarok after that. Thor winds up...
Now this one was better, right?
Oh, yeah. It's fantastic.
Okay,
it's hilarious.
Because he had a rough patch.
Yeah. It turns out his sister, who his dad had basically wiped from memory and existence because she was evil, and his dad was also turned out was doing some bad stuff, comes back, sends him into exile. He winds up on this war planet where it turns out the champion of that planet is the Hulk, because that's where the Hulk ended up.
That's where he's been.
Yeah, like there's this great scene where they're like, all right, you're facing the champion, and he's all ready for battle. All of a sudden the Hulk comes out, and he's like, yeah, I know him. He's a friend from work.
That's adorable. But does the Hulk recognize him? Because the Hulk is...
Yeah, but still beats the crap out of him because
I was going to say, the Hulk can't... When he is the Hulk, he can't really think for himself, right?
Yeah. And that's the thing. He's been the Hulk at that point for months because he refuses to revert back to Banner. But the Hulk ends up joining him. They team up. They go back to Asgard to take down his sister. But in the process, Asgard is destroyed. So his people, they all get on a ship, and but his world is gone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That leads us to Avengers Infinity War, which I would say, if you are interested at all, that's a good stopping point for the podcast to watch Infinity War and then Endgame. You can get by with just that. But if you just want to know what happens to lead you up into Endgame, we'll go on from there. So Infinity War, by this point, Thanos is going around collecting the Infinity Stones because he wants to wipe out half of existence.
So what happens when you get all the Infinity Stones?
You become a god almost. Like you can alter reality. You
and
can
that's
stop
the ultimate
time,
goal for both sides. They want all the stones.
No, they want to just keep them from him. Like they don't have any. The good guys don't have any kind of
agenda
plans for him. But he is going around. So he collects the one that the Guardians of the Galaxy had, like the place they'd put it. He goes, destroys that place, collects it. The beginning of Infinity War is him finding the ship that Thor and Hulk and all them are on and wiping them out. He beats up the Hulk. Thor's friend uses the last of his magic to send the Hulk back to Earth so he can warn them. Thanos kills Loki, Thor's brother.
For real?
Yeah, like just breaks his neck. And then they beat Thor and send him out into space.
And he doesn't come back?
No, he's dead.
Wow. I feel like nobody dies in these. Like it's like, well, I mean, a lot of people do, but the main characters.
This is when people start dying. So and then Thor is just drifting off in space. So Hulk goes back to Earth to warn them about Thanos approaching, and that's when they all start teaming up. Tony Stark and Doctor Strange argue a lot because it turns out they're pretty similar.
Because they're both geniuses.
Yeah, there's just some great scenes with Spider-Man, and Spider-Man and Tony Stark. It's like a father-son type relationship, like mentor-mentee.
Tom Holland is so tiny and adorable.
Yeah, and so that's great.
Is he a good Spider-Man? You like him?
Oh
as
yeah,
Spider-Man?
he's fantastic. I think he might be the best one. There's a great scene where Vision and Scarlet Witch are being attacked by because Thanos has these almost generals, and so they're being attacked by them. And also, all of a sudden, they're in a train station, and you see the Shadow, and it's Captain America. Oh. And he's got a beard because he's been in hiding, but it's like him and Falcon and Black Widow all team up to beat those people up and send them off, so they save them. So they realize that Thanos.
How did he know?
Exactly. So they realize that. They put out a call for help because he had given Vision maybe a phone. Anyway, so they put out a call for help, and they realize. Of course,
Captain America.
They realize all these that they've still got Vision's Mind Stone. Doctor Strange has the Time Stone, so they know that Thanos is going to come to them. So they go to Wakanda to defend it because the Black Panther has all this technology, and then so that's where they have this giant battle in Wakanda. Well, there are two battles going on because Thanos sends his people to Wakanda to get the stones, and then Thanos is also fighting the Guardians of the Galaxy, Iron Man, Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, because he stows away on a ship that he's not supposed to because Tony wants him out of there, so he's not fighting. And so they're fighting Thanos, and they almost get the Infinity Gauntlet off of him with all the stones. But then...
Oh. How many does he have at this point? Like 3 or something?
Yeah, I think, yeah. There's 6 of them, so at that point he has 4 of them.
Oh, wow.
And so... But then Peter Quill, Chris Pratt, finds out that the way he got the Soul Stone was they went to this place, and the only way you could get it was by giving up something you loved. And so Thanos murdered his daughter, Gamora, who was Peter Quill's, he was in love with her.
Natalie Portman?
No, I forgot.
No, Natalie Portman's with Chris Hemsworth.
She's green.
Mila
Zoe
Kunis?
Saldana.
Zoe Saldana.
Yeah. So he murders his daughter.
Oh,
That's
wow.
how he get the Soul Stone. Yeah.
And he didn't know
because they're at this ledge, and the keeper of the stones, you have to give up something you love, and she starts laughing. She's like, "Ha ha!" It's like, you can't even get it. You don't love anything. And he looks over and he's got tears in his eyes, and then he grabs her and throws her off this cliff.
Oh my!
And kills her, and that's how he gets it. So Chris Pratt realizes that he's like, "Where is she?" And somebody's like, "Oh my God, he killed her!" And so then he gets mad and starts punching him, and in the process, he takes control back, and so he beats them all up. He's getting ready to kill Iron Man, and then Doctor Strange is like, "Stop! If you don't kill him, I'll give you the Time Stone." And Tony's like, "What are you doing?" And
He had a plan.
Doctor Strange looks at him, and is like, "It's the only way." So he gives him the Time Stone, and Thanos goes off to Earth, where he meets up with his forces because they had been winning there. Because that's the other thing. So Thor, in the meantime, the Guardians of the Galaxy find him floating in space, and he goes off to get a new weapon because in Thor Ragnarok, his hammer, Mjolnir, was destroyed by his sister. So he goes, they create a new weapon called Stormbreaker, and so he shows up and is just wrecking house. But then Thanos shows up and it kind of evens the odds. Thanos kills the Vision. Actually, so there's this sweet thing where Scarlet Witch promises Vision she will kill him to prevent Thanos from getting the stone, even though it makes her, super sad because she's in love with him. But as Thanos is approaching, she uses her power to destroy the stone and kill him, and he dies. And so that Thanos can't get it.
Oh my gosh.
And Thanos is like, that was very noble of you. Then he uses the Time Stone to reverse time, brings the Vision back, plucks the stone from his head, and kills him.
Oh, and he still dies.
Yeah, he still dies but the stone is intact, and so then Thanos has got it. He's got the full glove.
Did she not know that he had the Time Stone?
No,
yet?
Nobody knew they had it because he was in another world. Yes. So then he comes back. There's this Captain America's trying to fist fight Thanos at one point because he's Captain America and he's going to do what he's got to do. And so then Thor comes out of the air and sticks his axe right in Thanos' chest. And Thanos is like, you should have gone for the head. And he snaps his fingers. And then he just disappears. But when he snaps his fingers, there's this big release of energy. And people are like, what's going on? And all of a sudden, there's Okoye, who's played by the lady from The Walking Dead. She's Black Panther's right-hand woman. She's looking at him, and all of a sudden he just dissolves into dust.
Who does?
The Black Panther. And then all of a sudden, like, I think the Falcon, like, Bucky's looking at him, and he just starts, and like half of everybody just starts wasting away. Because that's what Thanos wanted to do, was wipe out half of existence, because he felt like there were too many people. And so for, like, in his world, there had been too many people and there weren't enough resources. So he had a plan to kill half of everybody, but they didn't enact it, and his world ended up dying. So he became obsessed with wiping out half of everyone so that there'd be enough resources.
On a different planet?
Across existence.
That's so silly.
Like in every planet. And so, yeah, and so like people just start disappearing, like, and just.
How did he do it though?
That was with his. He snapped his fingers and he used the powers of
because
all the stones.
All the stones.
Yeah, because he has all the stones, and so he had the power, and so he like that.
And they're gone.
They're just wiped out, and so there's this real sad scene where Spider-Man and Iron Man are standing there, and all of a sudden Spider-Man's like, I feel weird, and like, yeah, I mean, I was crying in the theater. He's like, Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good, Mr. Stark, and then before that, the other people, like the event, like. Doctor Strange just disappears, and most of the Guardians of the Galaxy just float away, and so Iron Man kind of knows what's going on, and then the only one who doesn't is Thanos' other daughter, Nebula, because his two daughters basically turn on him to help Guardians of the Galaxy. But yeah, so then he's holding Spider-Man, and Spider-Man's like, I'm sorry, and then just disappears, and it wrecks Tony because he's the one who got him into the hero life, so then he feels responsible for that. So then
I'm exhausted. This is a lot for me to process.
I understand, but you know what? Look, it's only been 45 minutes. So there you go. So that's the end. That was the end of Infinity War. Half of them just wiping away, and then Thanos going back to his what he called it, the garden. Like he's like, I did what I wanted to do, and he retired, and he took off his armor, and he's done. And so that's the end of Infinity War. Is he wins and he wipes out. So if
he's retired, why can't they just have the stones back?
Well, I mean, he goes to another
and he keeps
planet.
So he keeps the stones.
Well, I mean, that's all stuff to figure out in the Endgame. And so then there are a couple movies between Infinity War and Endgame. There's Ant-Man and the Wasp, which takes place kind of the same time as Infinity War. They're
Black Panther.
Well, I was going. Oh yeah. Black Panther is. Oh, sorry. Black Panther is right before Infinity War.
Okay.
It didn't show up on my thing here. Yeah, it's great. Black Panther's awesome. During that, Michael B. Jordan is awesome as the villain in Black Panther. I know we're digressing now, but yeah, he's really good. He's kind of a forgotten son of Wakanda who decides he wants to take over, but he had been banished to, or he was raised in America and was like an American soldier, but then he comes back. So and that's where you really learn all about Wakanda. So whenever it shows up in Infinity War, it's really cool.
I love Michael B. Jordan so much.
Well, he's really good in that. I know you're a big fan of Creed.
I love Creed so much.
After Infinity War, Black Panther's wiped away. I mean, a lot of people go away. Ant-Man and the Wasp. Evangeline Lilly joins him as the Wasp, so they both got suits, and they're trying to stop another bad person from doing something. But the interesting thing about that is at the end of it, he is in this, and they discover this thing called the quantum realm. Like when you go tiny, 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 you almost exist on another plane. So he is in the quantum realm, and the after credits thing is he's in there because they send him in, but you need like somebody to bring you back. And
can't find him.
Well, he's like, guys, and it comes back, and you see the people that were standing there, like Evangeline Lilly and Michael Douglas, and they've both been just ashed away. Like they got snapped out of existence with the snap.
Oh, so they just brought him back in that last scene?
No, he wasn't. He's still stuck in the quantum realm when the movie ends.
And the people that know he's there are gone.
Yeah, because Thanos wiped him out of existence.
Oh my god.
And then there's Captain Marvel, which takes place in the 90s. That's the one with Carol Danvers. She's she's an Earth lady. You think for a little while that she's not, but she ends up being from Earth. But she ends up getting imbued with the power from an Infinity Stone. It also has Samuel L. Jackson as a young Nick Fury. They de-age him in it. It's kind of interesting how they do that. So that's Captain Marvel's in that, and also at the end of it, Infinity War, there's a little post-credit scene where Nick Fury's hitting a button to send out a signal to Captain Marvel, and then he just wipes away too.
Now there is a show called Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yes, it's connected to it.
And is that Nick Fury's in that or no?
Nick Fury is not in that. Agent Coulson is in
Okay.
that. I don't know if he's still in it or not, but it involves, it's a spinoff.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. But Captain Marvel, most of her stuff is, as she ends up telling them, they're like, well, why aren't you here to help? And she's like, there are a lot of other worlds than Earth, and all of them don't have the Avengers. So she's out helping other people. Then that sets up Avengers Endgame.
Wow.
There you go. And so now half of life has been wiped out, and they're trying to do something about it.
Oh my gosh.
And now you can watch it, though, and you'll know the stakes, you'll know who's who, and
I'm
you're
so exhausted.
ready to go.
Well, I know which ones I really want to see now, just based on the little bit that you've told me. You know what I mean? I don't think I can handle all of them.
I will
honest.
bring you Winter Soldier and Civil War.
Yes, I need those in Iron Man.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay.
And probably Guardians of the Galaxy.
A lot of them are on Netflix. Some of them, but yeah, they're on.
I'll check Netflix and tell you what I still need after that.
That'll work. And then we'll get your movie reviews later on. So everybody, if you've listened this long, I appreciate it. I have to go to a story.
I could barely make it through myself.
So there we go.
I really did. That's a lot going on. A lot of emotional turmoil.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they're emotional films, but they're a good time.
But I mean, they're great.
Yeah.
I don't understand how people are that creative. That's just amazing.
Well, the most impressive part about Infinity War and Endgame is tying all these characters together.
Yes.
And
I said, I was like, how do you bring in Thor and Tony Stark and Guardians of the Galaxy? It's just so, and Wakanda, and that's crazy that they can all be connected.
Yeah, they are. They do a good job of it.
They do.
So there we go, everybody. Do you have a favorite thing this week?
I'm exhausted now.
That's fine. We can skip on favorite things. I got to get out of here. I've got to go cover some news. But
my favorite thing is the memes in reaction to the latest Game of Thrones.
You know what? I will plus one on that.
Yeah.
I absolutely enjoyed that. And I don't want to get into spoiler territory, but I know there are some people unhappy with the turn a certain character took. And while I feel like there were shortcuts because I feel like this season could have used a few more episodes.
You think?
I don't think that turn was anything that I didn't see coming.
I knew it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We could talk.
We'll talk about that more on a spoiler-filled Game of Thrones episode.
Gosh.
All right. Well, everybody, thank you all.
Yes.
I've had a good time, Andrea. How about you?
I'm
You've been through the Marvel Universe.
You have done so much good work in recapping. I congratulate you. All of your years of nerdiness have finally, you were able to show it all.
There you go. Well, everyone,
Today.
I hope you all enjoyed that. You can go watch Endgame now in peace, knowing the characters, the stakes, and, hopefully it will be a satisfying conclusion to this podcast.
Is this the end?
Yeah, this is it. This is podcast Endgame. We're done.
Is Endgame the endgame too?
No. No, there will be more Marvel movies, but I don't think they will be the same. It really does change everything.
Huh?
So
That's a good tease.
there you go. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for going on that journey with us. Have a good one.
Bye.